Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back in War Thunder looking at some more Operation Heat stuff. Now luckily they've added the vehicles to the dev server files so we can have a look at them in the asset viewer, and also they've added something to the main news page. They've decided to add the decorations and the decals, and this is wonderful. Something that, at least for me, has been missing over the last few years is complete confirmation on what we're getting out of all of the prizes. So first of all, I just want to say the ammunition decorations are absolutely beautiful. As you can see, you can get basically full suits when it comes to either the combat load of a soldier, plus this one has involved with it a gun and also a helmet. This is just a general body pack, and then of course we have another helmet here with what looks like the Soviet style, but I'm not exactly sure. Overall, these look absolutely stunning. I can't wait to grind them out when it comes to the ground vehicle stuff, because that's where you grind these out. The flame ones, though, whenever flames are mentioned, when it comes to decals or anything else, I'm kind of a little bit worried because it's very easy to make flames look tacky, especially when we're talking about stuff like this, where it comes to, it looks like you should stick it on the side of a Hot Wheels car or something like that. And so it looks like we have some go faster flames, and as a fan of stuff like Need for Speed Most Wanted, I can definitely appreciate that, but once again, I think they do look a little bit, tacky, I think is the word, compared to stuff like the teeth that we had in the Sea Voyage event, which I thought was a lot better. This just reminds me of Guy Fieri. If you don't know who Guy Fieri is, he's a guy who goes around restaurants and just eats a lot of food and hopes to not get fat and basically comment on the food. He never seems to have a bad word to say, though, which is a little bit odd. But anyway, let's get to the asset viewer. Let's have a look at some of these vehicles. The first one we're going to be having a look at is the BT-7. As you can see here, the BT-7A F-32. It's the BT-7 with the F-32 gun, so the same gun that you find on the KV-1B and KV-1E in game. When it comes to differences apart from that, well, you have the coaxial machine gun on the side here, you have the back machine gun, but you also have a top machine gun up here. And if you have a look at the X-ray, which is where the main stuff, we know can come from, the main amount of information, you've still got the three-man crew. Very highly modeled. You've got the two guys in the turret, so commander, gunner, loader, and then of course the driver in the front, and an absolute ton of ammunition for this F-32. You've got the engine block and the transmission in the back, and if I counted correctly, there should be around 50 rounds in this turret. So if you, or even more than that now, since it seems to be slightly different. I'm looking at the wrong one. I just realized. Oh god, let's have a look at the right one. There we go. So this is the correct one. This is the F-32 and not the normal one, but you can still see the crew are in the same places. There's no real difference between them. The only real difference on the interior is, of course, the fact that there is a different breech in there. It's very much cramped in that turret. I feel very sorry for these guys, and there seems to be a first round or a first stage ammo rack of only 4, but it really depends on if they add these into the first stage as well. So you have 4 up here, you have 8 here, and then you have 8 on the other side. So that's overall 20 rounds, and then at the bottom here you have 30. So you can take 50 rounds in the F-32, which just seems like a crazy amount of ammunition that you can bring along. So it seems like you're not going to have issues with taking any of the ammunition that you require. If you want to take like 20 APHE and then maybe a little bit more of something else, you're able to. Everything is a possibility in this vehicle. One of the problems I thought when you get a breach like this is where is the space going to be for everything else? And it looks like at least there's a decent amount of space under the guys in the turret. I am a little bit worried about how big the breach is and also the blast guard here, because technically there should be 2 blast guards on this, on either side, but it looks like it's only on one side right now. So I wonder if they'll fit that in, or just not worry about it. If we want to see the difference between the two, the normal BT-7 and this, it's pretty much just the The main differences are the machine gun on top, obviously the amount of ammunition and the storage of that ammunition. The BT-7A loses some ammunition storage in the back because of the fact that there's a lot less space back there. But overall, it's very similar to the other BT, which makes sense. So I'm looking forward to this vehicle. I was worried about its ammo capacity, but now not so much. And also the fact that its gun would be struggling to fit in the turret. I mean, it is struggling to fit in the turret, but at least you can fit some guys around it. Hey, Bernard, how you doing? The next one on the list is the AUBL, of course. So let's have a look at the AUBL. In the files, it's known as the AUBL 7460 70mm. This is what the vehicle looks like right now. It is incredibly similar to the one that we have when it comes to the AUBL 74 with the 90. The only real difference, of course, being that 60mm on the top or on the in the turrets. You also have a gun on top, which is kind of nice. Looks like the standard gun that a lot of Italians have. And then if we go to the X-ray view of the AUBL 7460, what you'll find is it has an MG3 in the coaxial, which is lovely. It also has the Italian gun on top. And when it comes to armor storage, it seems like it has a ready rack of around about 4. And then it has a complement of about 9 shells just underneath that. So if both of those act as the actual ready rack, you know, the first stage ammo rack, that's great. That basically means that you have one of 13, which I think is good enough, especially for a vehicle that is a scout vehicle. You're not going to be running around too hard and, you know, pumping shells and stuff. You should be playing a little bit like basically the general playstyle of this I see is get really aggressive in the first 2 minutes, find a really aggressive position, use that position to scout, and then use the gun to get yourself out of situations where you have a bad time. If we have a look in the front next to the driver, it's 5x5, so that is 5 times 5, which is 25 sets of rounds. So there's 25 rounds here, and then over here there's 13 rounds. I think there's 13 rounds. Let's just have a look. So you have the 4, and then you have the 9. So yeah, 13 rounds plus 25 is what, 37 or 38? Yeah, 38. So 38 rounds overall for this machine. Once again, very much easily enough to do a decent amount of damage in it. Once again, with these small vehicles, you sometimes worry about ammo capacity, but for the ones that we've seen so far, 50 and 37 is easily good enough. It's pretty much bare boned on the inside, but so is the AUBL, you know, cockerel right here. So as I said, main differences are the gun and obviously the stabilization of the gun, and the fact that this has the top machine gun, which is kind of nice. If we have a look at the actual breech itself, the breech itself is huge. So it's very much a bad time for this dude, who has to basically just sit here and get the breech and the MG3 in his face. But overall, he should be okay. You know, he fits. It's not like an L44 situation where a brother isn't fitting in the X-ray view. So that's good. The next one we're going to have a look at is, of course, the BF-110C6. I just wanted to make sure which BF-110 it was, so I didn't look like a fool. Let's just make sure we get it right in the files. That's 100. There we go. So one thing about the BF-110C6 and also the P-59A, they don't seem to have cockpits in the game yet, but what I will say is all of the other BF-110s have cockpits, and since the C6 should be pretty much exactly identical to the C7, it would be kind of weird to see it not have a cockpit in game. It just hasn't been added yet. So you can see the MK101 underneath right here. Now you can see it, how it's going to be positioned. Hopefully it's not like a JU388 scenario where it's not lined up with the rest of the guns. If you have never played the JU388, the gift plane from the Battlefield Engineer event, it's really hard to get guns on target because they don't line up with the front of the plane. They don't line up with where you're actually looking, they line up with under where you're looking. And it can be really jarring because you actually have to pull your nose up to be able to hit the enemy. I really hope that both of these sets of guns are lined up with each other. You know, they converge at a specific point, because otherwise it could be really annoying to use. It's also got the standard machine gun in the back, and I also wanted to point something out, where back here you have, of course, the drums and the radio set, which is really nice. It's generally just a standard definition, at least on this model. But look over here, you have the actual little packs when it comes to the turret itself. You have the little packs of ammunition, which you would use to replace the ammunition for. So that's really cool. You know, it's nice to see that that's modeled. And if you want to look at a standard definition, let's call it BF-110C6 cockpit, this is what it looks like. So this is before all the bells and whistles. But as I said, I'm pretty sure this will have this cockpit here, which is this really high def one, because it should be pretty much the same vehicle, apart from the engines would be slightly different. And you can tell that by if you just look at the shape of the engines, they should be slightly different, and also, of course, the gun mounting as well. So yeah, the camouflage is an interesting choice. I'll give it that. It's, you know, this thing was mainly, and if not only, used in the Battle of Britain. It said in the article that Guardian put out that it was used in the Battle of France. I can't find any confirmation it was used in the Battle of France, but I know it was used in the Battle of Britain, mainly to deal with targets such as ships, or, you know, other targets when it came to ground strikes, such as radar stations. The interesting thing about it is this camo doesn't really fit the bill when it comes to the Battle of Britain, but I could be wrong, so I'm fine with being wrong about that idea. The next one, of course, is the P59. This is one that I'm sure everybody, or a lot of people, are looking forward to, and it looks like the stock skin is going to be the silver one. You can see in the front here that it has the large caliber gun, and then it has the 50 cals on the side. A lot of firepower is going to be behind this. There's also, I've put on the Tech Hub on the Discord, if you want to go and, you know, if you're not part of it already, or if you want to be part of it, there's a link in the description. There is a data sheet available for the P59A done by one of the developers. So I put that in the War Thunder Historian data, so you guys can see it yourself, so you can understand how this thing's going to perform in game. It's not looking great, but it was never going to. So you can see it's 2 engines. You can also see all the writing on the sides. Something that I pointed out is a really nice little touch, actually, that they added all of this in. And the model itself looks absolutely beautiful. Even though there's not a lot to it, there doesn't have to be. It's still a really, really nice little thing. And as I said, the cockpit itself isn't modeled yet, but you can still see the general outlines of what it's going to look like. I'll be incredibly surprised if this doesn't get a HD cockpit, just because of what it is when it comes to War Thunder in its entirety, and also history. You know, this is a very important plane in history. So seeing it without you know, its fully HD cockpit would be a real shame. The next one is, of course, the frigates, or the river frigate, or the river boats, you know, whatever you want to call it, the British boat. And the main difference between this and the main difference between something like this and, of course, the Flower class is that this has access to 2 102mm, so it has one on the back, which you can see here, incredibly well modeled, and then it has one on the front, which is sat here. It also has better engines. It also has access to a lot of other stuff, such as, talked about in the dev blog, some 20mm, which sits right next to where the commander sits, which is right here, very much all open in the ship itself. And then, of course, it has these 40mm, which the dev blog doesn't talk about, which I think are going to be the crowning thing on this, and actually may bump its BR up to a significant way. There's also some other things, as you can see, some bomb mortars all down the end of the ship, so the depth charge idea is well and strong in this thing. I don't think I'll be taking depth charges in this, because I don't want them to explode, but maybe someone can help me out with this. I was talking to Tazzy earlier, and we couldn't really work out what this was, and I did some preliminary searching. I couldn't find it. So obviously this is designed to drop depth charges behind you, but then you have these two things here. So you have this, which looks like some kind of flotation device or something that you'd connect to something to make it float. And then you've got this over here, which is the same thing. You've also got the crane behind it, and then you have this huge, what looks like it's designed to cause a net or something like that. Now, the two theories we came up with for what these things are some form of early sonar when it came to World War II, which obviously this River class was a part of. And the other thing would be for minesweeping, where you kind of toss them out. It creates like a very long barrier, and then you put something between it, and you set off mines that way. But the thing is, I just don't know, and neither did Tazzy. We were kind of just guessing. So if you have any information on what this thing is or what it does, I'm all ears. I would love to know. So as you can see, the main guns on it, the 102s, should be very fun. Getting them both on target at the same time is going to be quite hard to do, because you can see how wide this thing is, so you're going to have to pull it left or right quite hard. But the 40s in the middle should at least help you when it comes to your AA defense stuff, and also the 20s. Looking at the x-ray of this machine, you can see that it's only one smoke funnel, so once you take that out, it's going to drastically hurt your chances of moving. Then you have all of these bomb mortars on the front. There is an absolute ton of them. Then on the back, if you have a look, you can see all of the launchers as well. Now, the depth charge launchers plus the depth charges on the back. Like they're going all out with the let's fling everything everywhere idea, and it's kind of interesting, it's just one of those wonderful things that you see. Then of course you got the two props, the rudder, which is incredibly large, but I mean it's an incredibly large boat, so I'm guessing that's some form of pumping station. Then you got the two, or at least you got the engines in the center. And then of course, as I said, only one smokestack, which is really small. So I can see this thing getting taken out really easily when it comes to its engines, and when it comes to the smokestack, and just being sat still and struggling. It seems like there's only two 20s on the whole thing. You can see that's where the commander sits, like we talked about, but the two 40s definitely make up for that, and of course the 102s, which are around the place. Not a lot of ammunition in this front 102. The main ammunition seems to be in this block back here, so if you want to ignite the ammo, obviously hit center mass. The center mass idea on this seems to be the way to go. Just hit it in the center and it should be great. But overall, I'm really looking forward to this one. Even though in the Flower class and the Isle class, I felt like I only had 5 or 7 minutes in it, because every time 5 or 7 minutes were up, I got bombed. I still thought it was really fun. I enjoyed, island peeking. I enjoyed trying to use the 102 to hit random PT boats. It was a nice challenge. I enjoyed it. Now, what's interesting about the H.E.A.T is it's actually spelled in the files with 2 U's, which I'm guessing is just just there because of the little idea of the accents that's on one of the U's. But as you can see, I believe, I'm just going to check if it's 123 millimeters. I'm pretty sure it is, but it's always best to check since we have the 127. There you go. So it has 127 millimeters, 2 on the front and also 3 on the back. So they are right here. The interesting thing about these two turrets, though, is they get incredibly close to each other, if not touching. So they are very, very close to each other, and I'm wondering if that's going to affect their turn rates when it comes to turning. It's also got some depth charges on the back, and when it comes to AA defense, here are those 40s. So they look like the same 40s which are on the CH2. I've actually been using the CH2 recently, and I've had a lot of success with it. It's a really fun little machine. Has a lot of firepower on the front of it. Does a lot of damage, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Also has 2 smokestacks, which is better than 1, I suppose. But if you're looking at the enemy or looking to go towards the enemy, having only 2 127s, it would be nice if one of those other turrets was sat here, but unfortunately that's just not the case. The bridge itself is really nice. The glass needs a little bit of cleaning, as you can see, but here's the bridge. It has a lot of telescopes. It has, of course, the main area to steer, and also the forward and backward stuff. Then, of course, it has the observatory tower, which is used for aiming the main guns, which is all connected, which all also looks incredibly nice. Everything looks lovely on this ship. One little attention to detail, which is lovely, is first of all these, like the rescue boats or whatever you want to call them, they are absolutely stunning. They've done a wonderful job at all of these models. I would definitely say go and have a look at any of these models in the asset view if you can, because it just shows the attention to detail which goes into them, even to the point of putting in a ladder so you can climb the smokestack, which is just a wonderful little thing, and also the top of the smokestack as well. The last thing is torpedoes. So it seems to have 2 sets of 4 torpedoes, so 8 torpedo launchers, but you can also see, well, what's this thing here? What is this interesting little area which you see? Well, what it is some extra torpedoes. A lot of the Japanese ships that we have in game do have some extra torpedoes, and this is one of them. So it has 2 sets of 8 torpedoes. So overall it should have 16, if I'm counting correctly. It has 2 set up here, and then it has 4 set up behind the other set of torpedoes here. So if you're in realistic and you can't reload your torpedoes, then don't fret. You actually get 2 sets of torpedoes with this thing. So it isn't just a machine which has, 5 127s on it. It also has access to 16 torpedoes and also 2 40mm, which is nice. Also, you've got the smokestacks, as we talked about. And there is a main emphasis on this one here. But if you take out either, it's going to be effective against the vehicle. And also the bridge and the control center seems to be in the same place. So you can see my main man just staring at some dials, and also you can see them just looking ahead and looking behind. Overall, the model itself is massive. It looks really nice. It looks beautiful, just like all the rest of them. I think my favorite model is actually the River class, just because of the amount of detail on it, but the U-H is also really nice. Naval is just such a beautiful game mode. It looks absolutely stunning when it comes to it. But yeah, those are the 6 event vehicles which are coming into the game for Operation Heat. I'll try and maybe get some user missions of them so I can kind of show them to you, maybe talk about some of the history of them. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Martinez, Moxie, Alobralo, Super Cacti, Grisvolk, E-Love Goats, and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.